Chiron stationing retrograde at 10:42 a.m. Eastern Time on the 30th at 27 degrees of Aries. The reason that I talk about Chiron, that I talk about the lunar nodes, I will continue to talk about some other placements. There's so many things to research, but I've started with those two because I find them particularly resonant and meaningful for what I like to focus on is how can we grow, learn, shift, and evolve over time. So for Chiron, it represents the wounded healer. That's the other name for it. And it tells you in your natal chart something that you experience that kind of comes up as it's like a thorn in your side or in your foot, just like a splinter in your foot that it keeps coming up over and over again. And it's kind of painful. It's kind of frustrating. And eventually, when you put in the work required, the mastery, you can get that splinter out, get that thorn out of your side, heal it, and then be able to teach other people to guide them through what you have learned from your experience. So it is in part a lifelong journey, but depending on, what your input is, you can work through that. It first entered Aries, which is the sign of action, courage, competition, passion, also the individual in a different sense than Leo. Leo is the me to Aquarius is we. Aries is the individual versus the couple, the in relationship Libra. So Chiron entered Aries in April 2018, and it's going to remain there until April 2027. So we still have another year before, a full year and change before it'll actually finally get out of Aries. So it's something outside of this retrograde period that you can reflect on. How has the Aries area of my chart, so whatever houses you have in there, how have I been enduring patterns of frustration but healing, and really it's kind of like a slow burn of knowledge and wisdom and growth so that you can get on to the other side. So that when you are on the other side, April 2027 and beyond, that transformed, but it's that you're healed, that you are healed in this area. You've gone through some hardships, but you actually have the wisdom now. You have the wisdom that you didn't know that you were going to get. And you're like, you know what? I really have learned a lot. I have understood so much about myself. So I am looking forward to that. Retrogrades are periods of reflection. We're redoing, we're recalling, as in memories. We are reworking. For Chiron, the focus of a retrograde is looking at our triggers, the soft spots, sore spots, tough lessons that keep repeating so we can truly master them and emerge on the other side with that up level that we so desire. And in that up level, we can become a wise teacher. This retrograde lasts from July 30th until January 2nd. So essentially, this is locking us in for the rest of 2025, where we are looking back on really what's been going on in Aries for us. In direct motion, it's trying to have us heal. So now in retrograde motion, it's just still trying to have us heal. It's encouraging us to go deeper in this Aries part of our chart for the rest of 2025. 12th house is looking at introspection. Perfect for Chiron. Chiron wants us to introspect. It wants us to go deeper. What it would suggest natally is that having a recurring pattern of tenderness and lessons around isolation, like being alone, introspective work, and around your self-undoing, your ways that you self-sabotage. Trining your Mercury is just also folding in a little bit more of your mindset and like how you're thinking about it, kind of consuming a bit of your thoughts extra. 24 degrees of Aries, 6th house. Yeah, Misty. So then it's close enough because it moves slowly that it's in the orb. So you can look at that window to see like when is it out, but it's in the orb. It's very close, and when it backs up, it's only going to be moving closer to 24 degrees. So it means that, for this window of time, it's extra activating it, extra healing, extra attention to your health, how you're putting your effort in. Yeah, we definitely talked about this. Okay, I remember this. 5th house for Chiron in Aries retrograde is how you are healing your relationship with taking action around play, joy, pleasure, creativity, engaging with children, even. So it can be having children, it can be just working with children, connecting to your inner child. So it could be doing some healing in some ways around childhood, early stages of life, and how you feel, you as an individual, you as an initiator, are connecting with some of those themes. We pull in the Aries piece. We have Venus entering Cancer on July 30th at 11:57 p.m. Eastern Time. As this is close to midnight, heavily dependent on your time zone, it's sneaking in on the 30th. For others, it will fall into the 31st. Venus, which we've talked about quite a few times this year, especially back in March and April when we were dealing with that Venus retrograde. Venus represents love, beauty, peace and harmony, ease, and it can also capture, kind of baked in, what's going on with your relationships. So doesn't have to mean your relationship in a romantic sense. It can be any type of relationship, including one with yourself, with habits, circumstances, etc. And when we're talking about Cancer, that is cardinal water sign. It represents a bit of being emotionally guarded. So it's known for having the hard shell, soft center. Symbol for Cancer is the crab. So there is a big heart beneath that tough exterior, because Cancer is also known as the caretaker of the zodiac. Very highly intuitive, holds ancestry as well as memories. So this Venus in Cancer transit encourages flow, because that's what Venus, a benefic planet of ease, is going to bring as it enters in direct motion any sign. So it's encouraging flow and facilitating balance in this Cancerian area of our chart. So if you're pulling up your natal chart right now, you want to look at the entire slice of Cancer. You may have one house there, you may have two houses there, depending on the house system that you use. So it'll be that little subdivided slice, and you look for numbers on the innermost circle. Generally, we could expect that in the weeks ahead, we will experience support for our intuition, harmony in our relationships, and self-care practices. The reason for that is because Cancer, as the caretaker, oftentimes is thinking about helping other people, supporting, nurturing other people, and tends to neglect their own self-care. So when we have Venus there, it's trying to support that a little bit, like show yourself a little love. So it's a great time for anybody with big, notable Cancer energy to get a little bit of that when you're especially lacking. And then, of course, it brings it to everybody, regardless of what your natal placements are. And finally, it could trigger some sweet, sweet nostalgia for us. July 30th or 31st, depending on your time zone, until August 25th. And that happens around midday Eastern time. So likely for most people, it will be falling on August 25th, regardless of time zone. So whenever Venus is going in direct motion through a sign, we're ballparking it around 1 month in that sign. So it's a meaningful chunk of time for some, not change, but some shifts, some flow, some energy to move. And if we were to operate through our year thinking about what's happening with Venus, okay, great. We have this, approximately month ahead. Where in my chart, where in my life can I give a little extra love and attention? Where can I reconfigure to create balance? Not creating systems, not creating order, that's Saturn. We're creating balance, we're creating ease, connecting to pleasure, joy, relaxation, all that jazz. None of these Venus transits they're not a Saturn energy. They're not a Pluto energy. We're not digging anything up. We're not breaking things down, Uranus. We're not, rebuilding. We're just giving it a look-see, and we're trying to make sure it's working, and we're experiencing the flow. So as Venus then leaves whatever house it is, or houses, and goes into the next one, you're able to sit back and go, okay, well, now that I kind of felt that working in a different way, that things were flowing, things were really moving, how do I feel about it now? So you could kind of have a post Venus period of reflection, but it helps you re-engage with what your priorities are, like what's important to you. When I'm using reevaluate in the context of all these examples, what I'm getting at is it just kind of comes up. It's coming up. Your energy is flowing there. You want to engage with these areas of your chart, and that could bring things up for you where you recognize, hey, this really is out of balance. I have to make that more balanced. So inherently you are evaluating, and I just in some situations was saying reevaluate, but just wanted to add that caveat that it's not full on retrograde energy, because that is not what we have here. I can kick it off for me as people are looking. I have Cancer in my first house. So that means I'm going to be bringing that ease, flow to how I'm thinking about my identity, who I am, my appearance. So not physical health, but my appearance, how I look, style, and especially for Venus, into the aesthetics, into beauty. If you have Venus moving through the first house, moving through the sixth house, there's going to be an extra emphasis on, like, how is it that you look? How are you feeling about how you look? And then, of course, it's understanding your identity and what you value for yourself, like a bit of what of your values for yourself as a person. 10th house, the long-term career. So 6th house is going to be what's like your job right now, what's the work that you're doing, what's your service, how are you contributing. 10th house is looking at your career arc, your reputation. So it could be having some balance or reestablishing your relationship with a boss or superior or with your company, something to that effect. So it could be those types of relationships. It also could be your relationship with your work, maybe a bit of work-life balance type situation. How have you centered values or not within and throughout your career? At whatever point, you can check the date using a transit calculator. You can do that on AstroSeek. You can find the date when it's going to pass over Jupiter. And really what that's going to do in activating your natal Jupiter is really give you a great spotlight day of significant growth. So not only are you doing this reevaluation, but in that Jupiter orb, and especially on that Jupiter day, or a couple days maybe, when it is passing over and it is going exact, really big opportunity for growth and luck. So that will be one to watch for and mark in your calendar. And of course, it's going to happen sometime within the next month. So if you can look ahead, you could prepare for that day. Jamie, ninth house. So if we're looking at the ninth house and a natal Mercury placement, Venus moving through the ninth house is bringing balance, reevaluation, ease to your learning, your spiritual development, your beliefs. It could also be talking about travel or teaching or education. For me, just as I'm talking about this, and I don't know how much this is intuitive or not for you, Jamie, but the emphasis for me feels like it's on the belief and values piece. So how can we make sure we are aligned with what we believe? With really looking at our relationship that we have with religion, with spirituality. When it crosses over your natal Mercury, it's likely just going to be something that you're thinking and talking about a lot. You could be, in particular, teaching, educating, studying, learning, traveling on that Mercury-Venus conjunction day. So it will be supportive of any Mercury-like, which Mercury is very similar to a lot of the ninth house themes, but it'll be extra supporting it. Fourth and fifth house, if it's moving through, going back to grad school. Yeah. So are you going to be going back over the course of this next month? Or is this like, maybe it's just gearing you up for it? I don't know. I guess August could make sense if you were going back to school. If not, you're going back in September. Signing up for classes. There you go. Yes. So you could be looking specifically at making sure that the classes you pick, obviously, we have certain class requirements for our degrees, but really thinking about how it's aligned with you, what you value, thinking about your class schedule and making sure it's balanced, that it's not going to overwhelm you. Great opportunity to harvest that when you're picking your class schedule. Okay, so back to fourth and fifth house. That's childhood, foundations, parents, sense of home, and then fifth house, play, pleasure, very Venusian, loves it. Dating, creativity. So Venus moving through these two areas, and you'll want to look at essentially at a transit calculator, you can figure out the exact day when it switches. So you just want to see the degree point in Cancer when that fifth house starts. And then you can look at a tracker to see when is Venus going to hit that and pass it. And that will tell you how much of those weeks ahead Venus is in the fourth house versus in the fifth house. So you can mark that switch and see if you notice or feel a difference between the two of them. And Jackie, same thing for you as it goes from the third house into the fourth house. With Venus in these areas, it's ease, it's flow, it's trying to enjoy family, play, relaxing. If that's something that you're in dire need of, Venus is going to help with that, which will be great. And then just backing up into the third house, just because complete the little trio here in a row. Third house is looking at communication, siblings, so one subsection of your family, neighbors, neighborhood, short distance travel. So it's anything kind of in your circle, but how you are communicating, and also can include some of your daily rituals. So you're thinking about your day-to-day life and how you are interacting when we're looking at third house. So it's bringing energy into that space to support, hopefully, some effective communication. Reason that this is positive, I would say, is because we are in the middle of a Mercury retrograde where our communication, by and large, is a little jumbled. So if you can have that extra support in your third house, hopefully it'll mitigate a little bit of that Mercury retrograde transit, which is ongoing and will be going into the bulk of August. Yes, Jamie, really, really good point. So as we get up to this period, this window, if you're already noticing things are not in balance, then this approximately month period of time will help with giving you some of that balance that you need. It's like, it's that gift. It's a perfect timing. All right, so love, if we're looking at the 11th house, this is your friends, networking, community, clubs, anything with a group, social media. It could be, what is your social media diet? How much time are you spending with friends? Are you spending connected to your community, local community, global community, whatever level of community? You could be assessing that a little bit, but really you could also just feel really excited to want to engage with people more. When it crosses over midheaven, it's kind of a more potent expression of looking at your visibility and how people are seeing you, because that's what that midheaven is doing.